Bueno, bienvenidos al curso. Lo siento, tengo que repetir del monitoreo satelital del humo e incendios en América del Sur. Esta serie de seminarios tendrá 5 sesiones, los próximos 5 lunes a la misma hora, con la excepción del lunes 27, que esa semana la saltaremos. Y será a la misma hora todos los lunes, empezando a las 4 de la tarde en Bolivia, a las 3 en Perú. Y bienvenidos tanto a nuestros asistentes de Bolivia como de Perú. Entonces, este seminario lo hemos desarrollado un equipo de colaboradores, tanto en Bolivia como en Estados Unidos, y se desarrolló a raíz de otros seminarios que desarrollamos a lo largo del último año, año y medio. Tuvimos un seminario primero, un seminario segundo y luego un seminario para los medios de comunicación. Y ahora estamos impartiendo este tercer seminario. Yo trabajo en la Universidad de Maryland, en Baltimore County, en Estados Unidos, y me especializo en el tema de teledetección y calidad de aire. Y mi financiación en poder impartir este curso es a través de un proyecto de la NASA. Y llevamos ya año y medio trabajando estrechamente con el doctor Marcos Andrade en La Paz, en Bolivia, y Cristina Karen Obando Crespo también en Bolivia. Y hoy también se va a unir a nuestro equipo la doctora Amy Huff, que está en la NASA, en la NOAA en Estados Unidos. También se une a nosotros Laura Ticona, que está en la UMSA en Bolivia. Y Brian Duncan no está con nosotros, pero también es parte del equipo que ayuda a desarrollar este curso. Entonces, como ya dije anteriormente, tuvimos un primer curso general de la teledetección y cómo se puede usar la teledetección para el monitoreo de la calidad del aire en Bolivia. Luego tuvimos un segundo seminario donde nos enfocamos en los aerosoles en Bolivia. Y luego, ahora lo que queremos hacer es continuar con este tema de los aerosoles, pero profundizar más, ¿no? Entonces vamos a aprender cómo trabajar directamente con los datos. Y nos vamos a enfocar en los incendios, los aerosoles de los incendios y también la ubicación de los incendios. Vamos a aprender a cómo acceder a este tipo de información directamente y la intensidad de los incendios. Y vamos a desarrollar a través de este curso una serie de competencias en el acceso y visualización de estos datos, para lo cual vamos a usar Python y también SIG la última semana. Y entonces, como ya vieron en la página web de este curso, sí que podremos ofrecer una certificación a aquellos que atiendan a todas las sesiones en vivo, como están atendiendo hoy, y también que entreguen que entreguen 2 tareas que vamos a tener y que defiendan el proyecto final que se les asigne, que serán en grupos. Y ya lo explicaremos más adelante exactamente cómo funcionarán las tareas y también el proyecto final. Habrá una tarea que se tendrá que entregar para el próximo lunes, la cual recibirán información de cómo entregar esa tarea y cómo acceder a ella. Esa información la recibirán mañana. Y entonces, hoy vamos a hablar acerca de los satélites de la NASA y de la NOAA y de los archivos de dichos datos y cómo acceder a los datos satelitales de la NOAA específicamente. En los cursos anteriores nos enfocamos más en los datos que se pueden acceder acerca de las herramientas y las páginas web de la NASA, pero para este seminario nos vamos a enfocar en cómo acceder a estos datos a través de la agencia de la NOAA de Estados Unidos, que es la agencia meteorológica de Estados Unidos. Los datos son similares, pero no son idénticos. Y entonces el enfoque en estas semanas va a ser en los datos que provee la NOAA. Entonces, la semana que viene, el 6 de mayo, hablaremos de cómo generar el primer paso para generar mapas de aerosoles. Luego hablaremos de cómo generar los mapas de aerosoles directamente y provenientes del instrumento VIIRS y la detección de los incendios y potencia radiactiva del fuego de VIIRS. Y luego, en la semana número 4, el 20 de mayo, generaremos lo mismo, pero con el instrumento ABI del satélite GOES, del cual hoy aprenderemos cuáles son las diferencias entre estos dos satélites e instrumentos. Y luego ya en la última semana del 3 de junio, pues nos meteremos en la parte del SIG y todos ustedes tendrán podrán presentar sus proyectos, el proyecto final del curso. Y entonces hoy hablaremos primero de el panorama de la calidad del aire en Bolivia, conceptos de teledetección, satélites e instrumentos, y hablaré un poco de la teoría de de qué es lo que significa, ¿no? Y qué es la profundidad óptica de los aerosoles. Y luego la doctora Amy Huff hablará de los satélites de GOES y de JPSS, y luego también de los instrumentos que están en dichos satélites. Y luego también nos hablará de cómo acceder y descargar estos datos más adelante en la presentación de hoy. Y entonces vamos a ofrecer primeramente una introducción a la teledetección, en caso de que no tuvieran oportunidad de revisar las grabaciones de los cursos anteriores, que todavía los pueden revisar si quieren, está en la página web de este curso. Y entonces le dejo la palabra al doctor Marcos Andrade. No te oímos, Marcos.
Estaba comentando que tal vez es bueno recordar que el curso por parte de Amy va a ser dado en inglés, pero que las preguntas pueden hacerlas en español, probablemente vía chat, y nosotros vamos a traducir a Amy cuando se requiera. Bueno, la idea de mi intervención va a ser corta. Y voy a tratar de monitorear el tiempo en eso. La idea entonces es que queremos ver todo el tema, no solo en Bolivia, sino también en Perú, por eso hemos invitado a nuestros colegas de Perú, relacionado con el uso de datos satelitales, pero sobre todo orientados al tema de calidad de aire. No es el único papel de las aplicaciones que hemos tenido. Claramente hay gente que tiene interés, por ejemplo, en la deposición de carbono negro en los glaciares. Y entonces vale la pena mencionar porque las fuentes son parecidas en algunos aspectos, ¿no? Entonces, en el caso de Bolivia tenemos las fuentes móviles, que son básicamente vehículos, camiones, etcétera, en las ciudades, aunque también se puede tener impacto de esto en el campo, en lugares, en carreteras de mucho tráfico. Y un tema que es fundamental y común a los dos países, que tiene que ver con lo que se llama las quemas de biomasa vegetal, lo que nosotros llamamos en Bolivia chaqueos, ¿no? Claramente la topografía y los factores meteorológicos, tanto el factor a escala sinóptica como en una escala más regional y local, juegan un papel muy importante, ¿no? El Cochabamba, por ejemplo, está en un valle, se puede ver ahí a la izquierda, y en Santa Cruz está en un lugar mucho más plano, naturalmente, pero todo esto y va a tener efecto toda la topografía en cómo el humo que se produce en las quemas termina transportándose a la mayor parte del país. El año pasado hemos tenido eventos muy importantes que algunos tal vez de estos vamos a tomar como ejemplos en los proyectos que van a hacer. Adelante, por favor. Entonces, la idea básica que queríamos mencionar es que, bueno, la atmósfera naturalmente contiene tanto gases como partículas y algunas de estos elementos van a ser importantes en temas de salud, pero también en temas de clima y otros que pueden ser de interés, ¿no? En el slide pueden ver algunos de los elementos que se miden típicamente en términos de gases, que son, el esquema muestra, son moléculas, ¿no? O átomos, moléculas en la mayor parte de los casos de diferentes compuestos, ¿no? El ozono ha sido uno típicamente muy importante y particular y medido desde el principio, pero eso se refiere, por ejemplo, al ozono total, a la famosa capa de ozono, pero hay otros como el mismo dióxido de carbono o el monóxido de carbono también que se miden ahora en satélites. No es exactamente el objeto del curso en particular, pero es bueno mencionar porque hay que diferenciar los aerosoles que están en la representación a la derecha, que son un agregado de muchísimas moléculas que forman pequeñas partículas del orden de los en tamaño de orden de los nanómetros. Y estos van a ser el objeto del curso en realidad. Siguiente, por favor. Entonces, la idea básica, y esto no lo voy a explicar en detalle porque Ana va a tocar esto con mucho cuidado, es que los instrumentos que estamos pensando ahora tienen que ver con, básicamente, son instrumentos que van a recibir, van a medir la radiación o directa, como los instrumentos que están en tierra, y en el gráfico se ve A, ¿no? Que en Santa Cruz existe uno, por ejemplo, en La Paz tenemos dos que miden una cosa que se va a definir luego, que se llama el espesor óptico de los aerosoles, ¿no? Y los satélites van a ver algo parecido, pero lo que van a tener es la luz del sol que se refleja hacia el sensor que está en el espacio. Ahora sí, el siguiente, por favor. Entonces, hay dos tipos de sensores, básicamente, unos que son activos y otros que son pasivos. Los sensores activos son aquellos que tienen su propia fuente de radiación electromagnética, luz, típicamente un láser que se envía al espacio, a la atmósfera, perdón, y después se colecta la luz que se refleja, podemos decir en palabras simples, decimos que es luz retrodispersada, radiación retrodispersada, que nos permite entender las características con lo que ha interactuado la luz, ¿no? Mientras tanto, un sensor remoto pasivo va a medir básicamente la energía que viene del sol, sea de manera directa o sea que se refleja desde la superficie de la Tierra para tratar de obtener los mismos parámetros, ¿no? En el ejemplo muestran algunos, el famoso calipso es un lidar que mira hacia abajo desde el espacio, y solo para tener idea, nosotros aquí en perdón, en La Paz tenemos un lidar con el cual enfocamos al espacio desde superficie, ¿no? Y los instrumentos, los sensores pasivos que van a ser objeto del curso justamente están mencionados ahí. Y finalmente, tenemos un slide más, creo. Dos más. La pregunta es cómo medimos los elementos. Si volvemos un poquito atrás solo para mencionar, bueno, hablé de las medidas indirectas, ¿no? Con la retrodispersión de la luz, y quiero mencionar rápidamente el tema de las medidas directas, que son las que se hacen con instrumentos. Ven ahí una foto del laboratorio de Chacaltaya con varios de los instrumentos que tenemos ahí, y hay varias técnicas, pero que el punto importante en esto es que los instrumentos en superficie están casi siempre en interacción, están tomando la muestra y están midiendo a través de diferentes métodos, como se ve en el slide, la cantidad de lo que queramos, la concentración o las características físicas o químicas, por ejemplo, de los aerosoles, lo que sea, tomamos muestras, metemos esto a los instrumentos y medimos lo que queremos. Mientras que el satélite claramente no puede hacer eso, lo que hace es medir todo el tiempo radiación electromagnética, sea que le llega de manera de la luz que le refleja desde la superficie o de la, del reflejo de la fuente pasiva, activa, que sería el LIDAR, el láser. La siguiente, por favor. Entonces, quiero dejar, la idea es que dejemos claramente establecido antes de comenzar con toda la instrucción que viene después, es que los instrumentos que están a bordo de los satélites no miden necesariamente o exactamente lo que miden los instrumentos en superficie, ¿no? Aún como los dos, el caso de la foto de los dos instrumentos que ven en la parte superior, uno que es un Pandora y el otro que es un Simmel, aún la idea de estos instrumentos tampoco van a medir toda la columna, se llama típicamente, de lo que hay, de lo que sea que está midiendo hasta el tope de la atmósfera, pero los instrumentos que utilizamos para medir en superficie, como los ejemplos que están ahí abajo, que es una eslalómetro, son todos en realidad eslalómetros, miden cosas que están en superficie y no es toda la columna. Y entonces tenemos que entender claramente, y vamos a intentar durante el curso mencionar algo de esto, que hay diferencias, pero que se pueden de alguna manera relacionar tanto las medidas del satélite o las medidas que tenemos de sensoramiento remoto desde superficie con medidas que son un poco más cercanas tal vez en el sentido de los efectos, por ejemplo, para la salud. En la salud hablamos de PM10, de PM2,5, de ese tipo de cosas medidas en superficie. Entonces hay que entender las diferencias y esto tal vez vamos a hacer un poco más de énfasis durante el curso. Creo que eso va de mi parte, Ana.
Sí, muchas gracias, Marcos. Em, entonces, continúo ahora con la parte de teledetección y calidad de aire específicamente. Entonces, con los instrumentos satelitales podemos medir varios tipos de contaminantes y aquí los he enumerado a todos, incluido, por ejemplo, el dióxido de nitrógeno y dióxido de sulfuro. En este curso nos vamos a enfocar en la profundidad o espesor óptico de los aerosoles, como ya mencionó Marcos. también la detección de los incendios o lo que comúnmente se describe como los puntos de calor. Y luego también otra unidad o observación interesante y útil que es la potencia radiativa del fuego, o el FRP en inglés. Entonces estos son los las tres tipos de mediciones en las que nos vamos a enfocar. Y entonces los sensores o instrumentos satelitales llevan a bordo varios sensores o instrumentos, ¿no? Normalmente llevan varios, por ejemplo, hay algunos satélites de la NASA y de la NOAA que miden no solo los aerosoles, sino también a lo mejor, por ejemplo, el dióxido de nitrógeno y otros gases traza al mismo tiempo. Estos sensores miden la radiación electromagnética y dependiendo del tipo de instrumento va a medir en un lugar específico del espectro electromagnético, como está indicado aquí. Y lo que miden es la radiación solar reflejada o la radiación infrarroja o de microondas que es emitida por la superficie terrestre o por las nubes o cualquier otra parte del sistema Tierra-atmósfera. Y entonces aquí está indicado con este dibujo que los tipos de radiación, tanto reflejada como emitida, que el satélite puede detectar. Y entonces, la pregunta entonces es cómo pasamos de esta detección satelital a algo útil que podamos utilizar como por ejemplo, para la toma de decisiones relacionada con la calidad de aire. Y entonces esta radiancia espectral, que es lo que mide el satélite, pasa por una serie de cálculos teóricos o suposiciones que se hacen sobre el sistema de la Tierra y atmósfera, lo que llaman también a los algoritmos informáticos o algorithm development en inglés. Y entonces de allí se pasa a derivar unos parámetros, se puede pasar y se pasa a derivar unos parámetros geofísicos específicos como pueden ser la profundidad óptica de los aerosoles, el dióxido de nitrógeno, etc. Y luego el objetivo es que estas observaciones o parámetros se puedan utilizar para aplicaciones como pueden ser el monitoreo de la contaminación atmosférica o tendencias en la contaminación atmosférica, etc. Entonces, un pequeño resumen que si ya tuvieron la oportunidad de ver los vídeos anteriores, ya se explicó, pero lo quiero explicar aquí de nuevo por la importancia que va a tener a lo largo de este curso. Y es que tenemos, a ver, no sé por qué no me saca el vídeo. Perdón. Por alguna razón he tenido un problema. Vale. Y entonces tenemos un tipo de órbita que es la órbita geoestacionaria, de la que ya nos hablará Amy en más detalle próximamente. Estos satélites que tienen este tipo de órbita están muy altos sobre la Tierra, a unos 36.000 kilómetros, y están posicionados siempre en el mismo lugar sobre la Tierra. Y tienen un periodo de rotación idéntico al de la Tierra. La cobertura temporal de estos satélites es de varias observaciones al día, de hecho cada varios minutos en muchos casos, pero tienen una cobertura espacial limitada. Y en este caso, de los que estamos viendo aquí, del GOES 16 o el 18, es una cobertura que está sobre Norteamérica y Sudamérica y Centroamérica, que es lo que vamos a estar aprendiendo a lo largo de este curso. Luego tenemos los satélites con órbita polar o heliosíncrona, que es una órbita circular que está fija, y como vemos aquí en la gráfica, la órbita parece que lo que se mueve es la órbita del satélite, pero en realidad la órbita siempre está en el mismo lugar en el espacio y la Tierra está rotando dentro de esa órbita circular y entonces así el satélite puede lograr una cobertura global con este tipo de satélite. Normalmente son unas 14 órbitas por día y van de una manera, tienen una sincronía con el Sol. Y debido a esto, Estos satélites hacen una medición a la misma hora local en todos los puntos de la Tierra. Y la cobertura temporal suele ser de 1 o 2 veces al día, dependiendo del satélite. Y aquí, en este curso, vamos a hablar del SNPP y el NOAA 20 como ejemplos de este tipo de, de órbitas, de satélites que tienen esta órbita. Entonces, para finalizar esta parte de la resolución temporal, también se puede denominar el tiempo de revisita, ¿no? Que es el tiempo transcurrido entre las observaciones satelitales en el mismo punto de la Tierra. Entonces, como ya dije anteriormente, esto va a depender del tipo de órbita, del tipo de satelital, del tipo de capacidad del satélite o sensor. Y entonces, algunos satélites tienen una resolución bastante alta, sobre todo, y que es importante, puede ser muy importante para las aplicaciones de calidad de aire. Y en algunos casos, si hay una superposición de las órbitas, también puede haber un mayor número de mediciones a lo largo del día. La resolución espacial es otro concepto importante a tener en cuenta en el mundo satelital porque es muy variado. Y se define como el área de superficie de suelo más pequeña que forma un elemento o píxel en la imagen. Normalmente decimos que cuanto mayor es la resolución, menos área cubre un solo píxel, podemos obtener más detalle. Y esta resolución va a depender de la configuración de la órbita del satélite y también del diseño del sensor o instrumento que está en el satélite. Entonces aquí tenemos ejemplos por ejemplo, de Landsat, que no es un instrumento que vamos a cubrir, pero podemos ver la diferencia, ¿no? entre los distintos tipos de resolución espacial. Y aquí tenemos aerosoles en Bolivia y no vamos a ver el instrumento MODIS, pero es un instrumento antiguo que sigue en operacional, pero su vida ya finaliza el año que viene, pero que tiene mucha continuidad, ha tenido mucha continuidad y quizás estén familiarizados con él. MODIS, como un ejemplo de distintos tipos de resolución espacial, de MODIS se podían obtener imágenes tanto de 3 como de 10 kilómetros de resolución espacial para los aerosoles. Entonces también tenemos la resolución espectral, que es la capacidad de un sensor de discernir las longitudes de onda más finas, es decir, más bandas y bandas más estrechas, ¿no? Entonces, los sensores que vamos a usar en esta capacitación o estos seminarios son lo que llamamos multiespectrales, tienen muchas bandas, de 3 a 36 bandas, en un amplio rango de longitud de onda, ¿no? Tanto de rojo a verde. Y las unidades espectrales que utilizaremos se miden en nanómetros. Otro concepto que también queremos repasar porque es muy importante y también lo hablará Amy Huff en unos minutos es el concepto de el nivel de procesamiento de los datos satelitales o los niveles de procesamiento, los levels, data levels en inglés, ¿no? Entonces, el nivel 1 el nivel 0 o level 0 son los datos crudos de los instrumentos la radiación, ¿no? que están detectando los instrumentos satelitales. El nivel 1 o level 1 son los conjuntos de datos geolocalizados y calibrados, pero no es un producto geofísico, el nivel 1 no nos da datos de aerosoles. Y luego tenemos el level 2, el nivel 2 y level 3, que sí son productos geofísicos derivados del nivel 1 o nivel 2, respectivamente. En el caso del nivel 2, son la resolución es la resolución espacial nativa del instrumento. Y luego tenemos el nivel 3, donde las resoluciones son datos cuadriculados que tienen unos píxeles uniformes, de tamaño uniforme. Y luego tenemos el nivel 4, que son las salidas de los modelos, que no vamos de los que no hablaremos en este curso. Entonces, es más fácil usar los datos de nivel 1 o 2 que los de 3 o 4. Entonces aquí tenemos esa información resumida. En los niveles 0, 1 o 2 hay mayor control para el usuario porque estás trabajando, ¿no?, con los datos más nativos del instrumento. Tienen también la ventaja de que son de mayor resolución espacial y temporal, pero son más difíciles de usar porque no tienen la grilla o la cuadrícula, no es uniforme. Sin embargo, los datos cuadriculados sí son más fáciles de usar, pero hay menos control para el usuario porque ya se ha calculado un promedio con los datos y entonces tenemos menos control sobre lo que originalmente la medición original del satélite. Y también hay más herramientas y webs disponibles para su análisis y acceso, entonces tienen esa ventaja. En este curso estaremos trabajando exclusivamente con los del nivel 2. Y aquí tenemos un ejemplo del nivel 1, 2 y 3 y podemos ver cómo se ve más detalle en los aerosoles en esta imagen del nivel 2 comparado con el nivel 3, donde ya se han realizado un promedio para obtener esta cuadrícula uniforme. Y entonces la profundidad óptica de los aerosoles es un concepto que sí queremos resumir hoy, y ya lo mencionó Marcos, expresa la cantidad de luz que ha sido removida debido a la dispersión y a la absorción de la luz durante su recorrido por un medio. Y entonces lo que representa en el caso de la profundidad óptica de los aerosoles es la carga total de las partículas en la columna entera de la atmósfera, desde la superficie hasta la cima de la atmósfera, y se puede medir tanto con un instrumento terrestre, como explicó Marcos, como con un instrumento que está en un satélite, ¿no? Entonces expresa, ¿no?, esta carga total de los aerosoles a lo largo de esta trayectoria, ¿no?, como se indica aquí. Siempre se expresa o representa en una longitud de onda específica, normalmente 150 nanómetros, y su valor depende de varios parámetros, la concentración de partículas, también su tamaño, su composición química y también su ubicación en la atmósfera. Determina pues este valor, ¿no?, de la profundidad óptica. No tiene unidades, y ya hablaremos más adelante de un poco más de exactamente, ¿no?, qué es lo que significan en el contexto de la calidad de aire. Entonces aquí resumo más o menos lo que dije anteriormente, que es un valor de columna integrado y que no tiene unidades. Y entonces aquí tenemos un esquema donde podemos pensar en la profundidad óptica de los aerosoles como en un cilindro, ¿no?, un cilindro imaginario entre la superficie de la Tierra y el satélite, y entonces lo que está representando es la cantidad total de aerosoles o partículas dentro de este cilindro. A diferencia de una medición directa, como puede ser, por ejemplo, el PM2.5 o concentración de masa en microgramos por metro cúbico. Y entonces es importante tener en cuenta que esta profundidad óptica de los aerosoles no es equivalente a una medición como puede ser el PM2.5. Sin embargo, pueden estar estrechamente relacionadas la una con la otra, y entonces por eso, y además las mediciones satelitales de la profundidad de óptica de aerosoles, a diferencia de el PM2.5, nos ofrece una cobertura pues bueno, muy amplia, ¿no?, espacial, muy amplia, y es la ventaja principal, ¿no? Como vemos aquí, tenemos la profundidad óptica de los aerosoles en Bolivia en 2 años distintos, y vemos que la cobertura espacial puede ser bastante buena, sobre todo si no hay nubes. Y este es un caso de un día con mucha contaminación y un día con menos contaminación debido al humo. Y entonces aquí finaliza mi presentación. En las siguientes diapositivas lo que tengo son unas diapositivas de referencia donde se puede acceder directamente a este tipo de imágenes de la profundidad óptica de los aerosoles. que se podrían luego quizás cubrir con más detalle si tenemos tiempo, pero en general en este curso no vamos a usar ese tipo de herramientas, sino que vamos a aprender a cómo generar directamente estas imágenes, pero sí se pueden también directamente conseguir a partir de estas herramientas. La ventaja de lo que vamos a aprender en estas próximas semanas es que nosotros vamos a aprender a obtener estos mapas a medida, ¿no? A medida a diferencia de estas herramientas donde tenemos menos control y menos capacidad de conseguir estos mapas para la región específica, ¿no? que queremos. Entonces, esto queda aquí para referencia. Y luego, finalmente, sí quiero mencionar el programa de capacitación de ARSET de la NASA, que yo lideré durante muchos años durante la NASA, donde también hay otros recursos y online, gratuitos y de libre acceso, acerca de la teledetección en general, pero también acerca de los incendios y cómo utilizar los satélites para el monitoreo del humo y los aerosoles. Entonces, aquí acaba mi presentación y ahora lo paso a Amy. Amy, I'm done with my presentation. So whenever you're ready to share.
Okay, sounds good. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Huff. Unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish, so I'm going to be speaking in English. So hopefully that's okay. If you need me to stop and explain something in more detail, or if you have any kind of questions, please put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand. Okay. So I'm actually going to turn off my video while I'm doing the slides, but I just wanted everybody to see my face. Okay. Just give me a second here while I select my screen. Okay. Let me put it in slideshow mode. Okay. Okay. Can everybody see? Anna, can you see the slides?
Yes. It's working great.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Marcos. Okay. So thanks to Anna for giving that great overview. I just wanted to go into a little bit more detail about the satellites and the sensors that we're going to be working with for the next few weeks. So Anna mentioned the two different types of satellites, the polar orbiting and the geostationary. But specifically, I wanted to talk about the Joint Polar Satellite System, or JPSS series of satellites. These are the NASA and NOAA polar orbiting satellites. And so Anna had that nice animation, and I have one here too. Let me set it in motion. So the thing to remember with the polar orbiting satellites is that they give global coverage. So you can see in the animation how the different satellites, as they go, they orbit around the Earth, they're viewing a different region of Earth, which is represented by that green and blue shading there in the animation. So they have global coverage. And the JPS satellites have, they cross the equator twice a day. So at about 1:30 a.m. in the nighttime, and then about 1:30 p.m. in the daytime, local time. Okay. So everywhere on Earth, they're in the daytime, they're getting the early afternoon observations. So there's 3 JPSS satellites currently in orbit, and I think Anna mentioned all of these. So there's SNPP, NOAA 20, and the most recent is NOAA 21. So before I go on, so in the animation, just see how the satellites, this animation is just showing 2 of the satellites, SNPP and NOAA 20, which is also called JPSS-1. So just see that green area that's being traced out by the satellites as they orbit the Earth. That's called a swath. We're going to come back to that later. I just want you guys to have that picture as we move forward. Okay. So here's the current orbital configuration of the previous configuration of the 3 satellites. And so the thing to notice is that wait, let me see. Hold on one sec. I think I can do a laser pointer. Here we go. The thing to remember is that the satellites, they're offset by anywhere from 50 to 25 minutes. So this was the previous configuration where SNPP and NOAA 20 were offset by 50 minutes, and NOAA 21 was in between them. But as of earlier this month, NOAA 20 moved. So now NOAA 20 and NOAA 21 are offset by 50 minutes, and SNPP is in between them. Okay. So the fact that we have these 3 satellites in orbits means that there's going to be at least 3, sometimes 4 observations for aerosols and twice that many for fires, because fires have nighttime observations, but aerosols don't. And that can help fill in some of the gaps from the polar orbiting satellites. And this isn't relevant for at least central part of South America, but at high latitudes like the southern part of South America, you get more observations from the polar orbiting satellites because of overlapping orbits. Okay, so the main instrument, the sensor that we're going to be working with on the polar orbiting satellites is called VIIRS. So VIIRS extends the heritage of the MODIS sensor that Anna mentioned. And so the thing I want you to remember with VIIRS is that it has 22 spectral bands. And they have, so they're split into what's called the M or moderate bands, and those have 750 meters resolution at nadir, and then the I bands or the imaging bands, which have 375 meter resolution at nadir. So nadir means that's the point when the satellite, when the sensor is looking directly down at the surface of the Earth. So as you go off nadir or away from that nadir point, the spatial resolution will increase slightly, but VIIRS has a system of pixel aggregating techniques that actually controls the pixel growth towards the edges of the scan. So the pixel sizes are comparable. So at the edges of the scan, the pixel isn't getting that much bigger. And so we're going to, when we do aerosol optical depth, we'll be using the M bands from VIIRS. And then when we do the fires, we'll be looking at the I bands. Okay. So remember in that animation, I said I want you to remember the kind of that green area that was being traced out. So again, that's called a swath. That's the scanning, the field of view that VIIRS is observing as it orbits around the North and South poles. And so, and you can see that swath here, hopefully in this image. So it's the extent of these vertical kind of areas that are being swept out. And it's indicated by these red arrows here. All right. So a scan is roughly about 3,000 kilometers east-west and about 12 kilometers north-south. And you can see the scans overlap, especially as you get to higher latitudes. There's a lot of overlap. So just some terminology. So we're going to be working with the VIIRS Level 2 files. They're called Environmental Data Records, which is abbreviated EDR. So if you see EDR, you can just think of that as a synonym with Level 2. And the swath is broken up into what's called granules. And a granule is one of these little subsections of a swath. And it's highlighted here. It looks almost kind of like a rectangle, but it's not quite a rectangle just because of the curvature of the Earth. And the granules, the reason they're broken up is just to make the file sizes more manageable for users. So a granule is 48 scans of the VIIRS instrument. It's about 85 seconds of observations. And it's about 570 kilometers in the north-south direction. Okay. So we'll be, when we're working with the data files later today, the VIIRS files, we're going to be actually downloading these granules files, these level 2 EDR files. Okay, so switching to the geostationary satellites. So the NOAA NASA geostationary satellites are called the GOES-R satellites. And GOES stands for Geostationary Operational Environmental Satellites. And there's 2 satellites that are currently in orbit. And again, the difference between the polar orbiting and the geostationary is that the polar orbiting has global coverage, and the geostationary is just focusing on a certain area of Earth, but it has nearly continuous observations of that area. So you can see in the image here, the GOES East satellite, this is roughly the area of coverage. GOES East is centered at 75 degrees west longitude. And the GOES West satellite, this is, I can trace it out, this is the the area of the observations that goes west, and it's centered at 137 degrees west. So of course, for South America, goes east is the satellite that you're going to be interested in. And right now that satellite is called GO16. So those are the data. We'll be working with GO16 data in this seminar. Okay, so on the GOES-R satellites, the geostationary satellites, the sensor is called the Advanced Baseline Imager. And so the ABI is similar to VIIRS, except that the ABI has fewer spectral bands. So it only has 16 spectral bands compared to VIIRS, which has 22. And then the other difference is that most of the spectral bands don't have as high a resolution as VIIRS. So you can see most of the spectral bands have 2 kilometers resolution. There's a few that have 1, and then there's one that has 500-meter resolution. All right, the other big difference between VIIRS and ABI is that the ABI, the geostationary data, the files are available basically in 3 different domains. And I'm going to talk about those on the next few slides. Okay, so the first domain is called the full disk, and that's those data cover the full hemispheric disk, either that's observed by GOES east or by GOES west. So again, obviously for South America, we're going to be working with the GOES east data. And there's also, these aren't relevant for South America, but just for completeness, I wanted to mention that the ABI files also come what's called the CONUS domain. So this is what it looks like for GOES east, and this is the domain for GOES west. And then there are also 2 mesoscale sectors. So these are smaller, and whereas the full disk and the CONUS, they never change, they're always the same. The mesoscale actually will move around each day. It's adjustable depending on what the current weather hazards are. So for example, if there's tornadoes or severe thunderstorms or hurricane development or maybe wildfires, the mesoscale sectors can move so that the meteorologists and scientists can have very high resolution observations of those hazard areas. Okay. So the other thing to remember about the ABI is that it has different what are called scan modes, and that's what sets the observation frequency. So most of the time, the ABI is in what's called flex mode, which is abbreviated as M6. M stands for mode. And so that means that every 10 minutes, we get the full disk, the hemispheric observations. Every 5 minutes, we have that CONUS sector. And every 1 minute, we get the 2 mesoscale sectors. Sometimes the mode will switch to M4, usually for a few, like maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes it'll be for a few hours. This is usually for some sort of test or calibration for the GOES-R satellites. And when that happens, we just get the full disk observations, and those are every 5 minutes. Okay. So again, the thing that's really advantageous about the ABI is that you have very high temporal resolution. So you have nearly continuous observations, and that's just an example here in this image. This is smoke from a fire outside of Houston, Texas, moving out over the Gulf of Mexico. So this bright red blob, this is a smoke plume that we can follow with the ABI, that high resolution every 10 minutes, moving out over the water. Okay. All right, does anybody have any questions? So that's just kind of a quick overview of the 2 different types of satellites that we're going to be working with, and then the sensors on those satellites.
Sí, alguna pregunta lo pueden poner en el chat. Y si no, continuamos.
I don't see anything in the chat. Does that mean everybody's okay before I move on?
Amy, we were
Yes.
thinking in like stopping every 30 minutes just to see if somebody has a question about the slides that you explained before, okay?
Okay, yeah. Does anybody have a question?
It seems no.
Okay. Okay. Then let me keep going. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to be working with the actual data files. We're going to be searching for and downloading them. So I just wanted to give, again, a brief overview of first the file formats, and then how the files are named. So the NOAA satellite data are in a format called NetCDF4, which stands for Network Common Data Form. And it's abbreviated .NC, that's the extension. And so NetCDF4, it's a set of software libraries and data formats that are specifically for scientific data. So specifically for satellite data in particular. And so you can see the kind of schematic here of the file structure. And let's see, in weeks 3 and 4, we'll actually be opening up the ABI and VIIRS files. And so you'll be able to see the structure specifically. But I just want to point out that there's something called groups, which are optional organizational structure. So not all files have groups. They're kind of like subdirectories on your computer. And then inside the groups are going to be the data variables themselves. So the satellite data that we actually want to work with. And then the variables, they'll have attributes. That's descriptive information, metadata, just discussing information about the type of variable. And then, of course, variables all have dimensions as well. And so we'll see examples of this as we move forward. All right. So again, we're going to be working with the geostationary, the GOES 16 ABI data files, and then also the JPSS polar orbiting satellite VIIRS files. So there's actually a lot of information in the file names themselves. So I just wanted to go over that quickly. So this is an example. So we're starting with the ABI. And again, we're going to be always working with the level 2 data files. So this here at the top, this is an example of what a file name looks like. Okay, so again, you can see the .nc at the end. That means it's a NetCDF file. And so for each of these sections of the name, I've just broken down what that information means. And so the main things to point out is that all the files, so they all have OR. That just means it's an operational environment. It's an operational file. The ABI stands for the Advanced Baseline Imager. That's a sensor. L2 means it's a level 2 product. So these are always going to be the same. Then starting here, these 4, sometimes it's more, but usually for the files we're going to work with, it's 4 letters. So the first 3 letters, that's an abbreviation for the actual product. So for example, this is an aerosol optical depth file. So the abbreviation is AOD. And then this 4th letter here, it's a C, but it stands for the scan sector. So it can be C for CONUS, F for full disk, or it could be M for mesoscale. We're not going to work with any CONUS or mesoscale. We're just going to work with the full disk. And then remember I mentioned the scan mode. So this is mode 6. That's the current flex mode. So that means we have the full disk data every 10 minutes. And this will be the satellite. So it's either going to be G for GOES 16 or 18. Again, we're only going to work with the GOES 16 data. And then these next 3 sections are the start and end and creation time for the data file. And so the thing to notice is that for the ABI files, they don't use an abbreviation for the month and the year of the observation date. They use a 3-digit Julian day. And somebody's going to ask me why. I don't know why that is. I think it's just a convention for the geostationary files. But this is going to be important later because we're going to have to figure out what the Julian day is for the observation day that we want to search for. Okay, so just kind of remember that point. We'll come back to that. All right, so here's just a couple example of ABI level 2 data files. I just kind of wanted you to see what they look like. So this is AOD data. And again, there's the CONUS sector, which isn't relevant for South America, but I just included it for representation. So this is the type of file that we're going to be working with. So this is the full disk file. And so again, you can see it's the full hemispheric disk. And this is GOES 16 data. So it's including the observations over South America. All right. And again, the data inside is going to be 2 kilometers resolution at nadir. And again, so the further you get to the edges of the hemisphere, the bigger the pixels are going to be, or the lower the resolution. But the part of South America, Bolivia, Peru, that we're going to be working with here, that's relatively close to the central point of the satellite. So the data will be close to 2 kilometers. They'll be a little bit bigger, but not too much. Okay. So the other thing that's going to be important that we're going to discuss is that because the ABI, those grids that I talked about, let me go back and show. Actually, we can just do it right here. So the full disk and then the CONUS, they're always the same because this is a geostationary satellite. So those domains, those areas don't ever change. Okay, they're always the same. So so that what that means is that what's called the grid or the latitude longitude projection of the data, those never change. So to save file space, the GOES-R program decided not to include the latitude and longitude data arrays as variables in any of the ABI level 2 files. Okay, so that means when we open up a file, we'll see this, an ABI file, there's not going to be a latitude or longitude data variable. Instead, there's all the information that you need to calculate latitude and longitude. Okay, so I will show you how to do that. That's just something to be aware of, because this can be confusing for people that just start, for new users working with the ABI data files. All right, so I just wanted you to be aware of that, and I'll explain more about this when we get to that point. It'll be in week 4 when we get to this. Okay. All right, so now switching to VIIRS, the polar orbiting satellites. So again, you can see this is again a level 2 file name. So again, you can see a lot of similarities. Okay, they're long file names. They end with .nc because they're netcdf files. So in this case, the first part of the satellite, or excuse me, the first part of the name refers to the product as an abbreviation. So this is an AOD, aerosol optical depth file. JRR stands for JPSS risk reduction, which isn't important. The AOD part is what's important. Then there's information about the version and revision of the product. Then this section here deals with the satellite. So again, remember there's 3 JPSS satellites. So there's SNPP, NOAA 20, or NOAA 21. So each of the satellites has a different abbreviation. And then just like with the ABI data, we have the observation start and end times, and then the time that the date and time that the file was created. The difference here is, though, again, remember the ABI files use the Julian day. The VIIRS files, they have the 2-digit month and the 2-digit day as an abbreviation. So it's a little bit easier to search for VIIRS files because we can just enter the year, the month, and the day that we're interested in directly. Okay. And here's examples of the VIIRS level 2 file here. So again, this is either an EDR, an environmental data record, or granule file. Those are synonyms. So you can see, just as an example, this is what the geographic extent of a granule file looks like. And again, the VIIRS files, they're always going to be different. Every day, they're going to cover a slightly different area. Every 16 days, they actually repeat. But they're different from the ABI files, which again are always looking, the full disk and the CONUS sectors always have the same geographic domain. The VIIRS files are going to have different geographic domains, okay? They're always going to be these granules, but where the granules fall on the Earth are always going to be different, okay? And then also I just included an example of a level 3 gridded aerosol optical depth file. Anna mentioned level 3 data. So I just thought you might be interested. This is just an example of what a level 3 VIIRS aerosol optical depth product looks like. So these individual granules, they're all gridded either to a 0.1 degree or 0.25 degree resolution grid. And then all the global data are available in one file. Okay. Okay. So does anybody have any questions about the files, the ABI files, or the VIIRS files?
Amy?
Yes.
Could you comment briefly, when would you think it's better to use one, the gridded, or the other one, the higher resolution type of files?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it really depends on the application, like what you're interested in as a user. So the granules files, they have higher spatial resolution. So again, these files, for example, have 750 meters resolution. And at nadir, and at the edges, so it'll be closer maybe to about 1 kilometer. So they're very high spatial resolution, and hopefully you can see that. There's very little pixelation. You can really see. This is representing a day when there was smoke over the continental U.S. So you can really see some of those fine smoke plumes. Whereas if you're looking at the VIIRS, the level 3 data, it's a little bit harder to see because it's zoomed out to the global view, but the pixel sizes, they're much larger because they're either, this one is 0.1 degree or they can be 0.25 degrees. So the spatial resolution is much coarser. But the advantage with the level 3 is that you get the whole global observations in one file, and the file itself is relatively small. So it's a lot easier to work with the level 3 data versus the level 2 data, which, if you wanted to have this same global coverage, you'd have to download about 550 individual level 2 files to make a full global picture like the one on the right here. So it's really, I say, Marcos, it's kind of dependent on what the application. If you need the really high spatial resolution, you want to work the level 2 data. If you just want to kind of have a bigger picture, do something kind of quicker, and you don't need that really high resolution, then the level 3 data are much easier to work with.
Thank you, Amy.
Yes. Does anybody else have any questions? That was a great question. Okay.
Pueden hacer la pregunta en español, por si acaso.
Yeah. Yeah, people should ask questions in Spanish if they're not comfortable in English. Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep going. If somebody comes, a question comes up, we can always stop and answer it. Oh, wait, I just saw one. All right. Could somebody translate that for me, please? From Gabrielle?
Is there a protocol or manipulation of the data or filtering all the data that can be done for their optimal use? So yeah, I think maybe the questions trying to get at is, are they ready to go as is, or do you have to do filtering or any kind of manipulation to use the data?
Yes, that's a good question. And we're going to actually address that in weeks 3 and 4. The answer is it depends on the product, but certainly for the aerosol optical depth data and for the VIIRS data, you do have to do filtering. Yes. I think, it sounds like we're getting some feedback. Everybody could mute.
Yeah, I'm muting. I'm doing the muting.
Okay. Uh-oh. Yeah, so to answer Gabrielle's question, yes, we do need to do filtering, and we will cover that. Okay, another question?
It says if there is, if we can use only Python to read these archives or files, or can we use other languages?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely, you can use other programming language. You can use whatever programming language you have the most expertise and most comfortable. I'm just going to show Python in this training because it's open source and it's very popular. But if you have another programming language that you use, certainly everything that I show you will be, you'll be able to do the same steps, the same workflow in whatever that language is. Yeah, there's nothing special about Python except that it's free and open source. Okay, any other questions? Okay, great. Okay, so we're almost done with the slides. So I just want to talk, have a few slides about the data archive that we're going to use. It's called the NOAA Open Data Dissemination Program, which is abbreviated as NOD. And so this is a new program from NOAA. Essentially what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it easy for people to access the NOAA data products. And they've collaborated with the commercial cloud platform, so Amazon Web Services, Google Earth Engine and Microsoft Azure to put NOAA data on these cloud platforms for free. So I want you to think about the NOD as a data archive, but instead of the data archive, wait, I'm sorry, can you still see my screen?
We lost.
No, we
You lost
can.
it? Okay, shoot,
Yeah,
hold
can
on.
you share again? Yep.
I don't know, I don't think I did anything, but it looked like it just dropped out. Okay, one more time. Okay, how about now?
It's good.
Can you
Yeah,
see
we
it?
can
Okay.
see.
Okay, so sorry about that. So I was talking about the NOAA Open Data Dissemination Program, which is abbreviated as NOD. And so again, NOAA is partnering with Amazon Web Services, Google Earth Engine, and Microsoft Azure to put NOAA data on these commercial cloud platforms for free to the users, which is going to be us, okay? So I just want you to think about the NOD. It's just a data archive, okay? That's the only thing it is, except the only difference is that instead of being on a physical server somewhere, it's in the cloud. Okay, that's the only difference. And we're going to access it today. We're going to access the NOD and we're going to search for data files and we're going to download the data files. All right. But I always have to mention the limitations. So the big one is this isn't what NOAA calls an operational source of satellite data, which means that sometimes there are data gaps that can occur. They don't happen very often, but it is possible that if you're looking for a file, you can, like, it might not be there, okay? The other big limitation is that for the VIIRS data, there's not a full archive, like the full history of the satellite products. They're not on the NOD, okay? And I'll show you the availability on the next slide. So if you need data that's older than what's available, then you have to use NOAA's what's called class, which if anybody needs to do that, you can send me an email and I can help you out with that, okay? Okay. All right, next slide. So so what we're going to use is we're going to use the version of the NOD that's on Amazon Web Services. And the reason why is because it's the most user-friendly of the three archives. It's free, it's easy. You don't need to register, you don't need a password. Sometimes people get confused. You do not need an Amazon Web Services cloud account. There are a lot of people that are working on the Amazon Web Services cloud, but again, this is not that. This is just a data archive that happens to be accessible through Amazon Web Services. Okay, so you can download the data files either manually, like there's a website interface, or you can do it programmatically. And so, for example, we're going to do it using Python. That's what I'm going to demonstrate. There are some really powerful Python packages for accessing the Amazon Web Services. They call them S3 buckets. That's what the data archives are called. So the data are updated in near real time. So for the ABI data, that's about 10 to 20 minutes after the satellite makes the observation, and it's about 50 minutes, a little bit less than an hour for the VIIRS data. Okay, so there's an archive, there's a full archive for the ABI data, and there's a partial archive for the VIIRS data, and then they're available updated in near real time. So again, you can see I just put it here. These are the availability for the 3 satellites for the AOD, the VIIRS AOD data, and then the VIIRS FIRES data, okay? And again, these are the 2 products, the names of the products that we're going to be working with. And then for the geostationary data, again, we have the aerosol optical depth and the FIRES data. So the abbreviation for FIRES is FDC. And so again, we're going to be working the full disk, but I just put the CONUS sector as well. There's no mesoscale data for aerosol optical depth. But for the FIRES, there is. So again, we'll just be working with full disk, but for completeness, I also have the information for the CONUS and mesoscale. Okay. I think somebody asked a question. Anna, it looks like. It looks like it's a question for Anna Prados. All right, so let me go. I just have one more slide, and then we can let's answer that question after that. Okay, so this is the last slide. So I just want to kind of show where we're going with the Python tutorials. So again, as I mentioned today, we're going to work with the NOAA, this cloud data archive. So we're going to search through, there's a separate archive for the GOES-R, the ABI data, and then a separate one for the JPSS VIIRS data. So we're going to look at both of them. And then we're going to search for, and we're going to download ABI and VIIRS level 2 data files. So we're going to download the aerosol optical depth files and then the level 2 VIIRS products. And then next week, essentially, we're going to do kind of all the groundwork to plot satellite data on maps with Python and to make the maps look really nice. So we're going to talk about map projections. We're going to talk about how do you make, because you're plotting the data, how do you actually make a map background that you're going to plot the satellite data on? What kind of color map do you pick for the data? That's important. Adding a color bar to your plots, and then some things that we can automate when we're generating the satellite data maps. And then in week 3 and 4, we're going to actually work with the data files. So week 3 is going to be the VIIRS files, and week 4 is going to be the ABI files. Okay. All right, and that's all I have in terms of slides.
Amy, there is a question about Marcelo Peñalosa is asking if they can work in VS Code, if it's the same or something like that, like Python.
So that's a great question. So what we're going to do today for excuse me, I can't talk, for the tutorial, the code, the actual Python code will work in VS Code. So the actual Python code itself is universal. You can use it anywhere. But the file itself that we're going to use, you can't run it in, well, you might be able to run it in VS Code. You might be able to download it and then open it in VS Code. I haven't tried that. It's what's called an IPYNB file. So that's the file format. It's not a PY file. It's an interactive Jupyter Notebook file. So you can run Jupyter Notebook files in VS Code, but I wouldn't recommend doing that right now. I recommend using the Google Colab. But if after the fact you want to download the file and try running it in VS Code, definitely try that and let me know how it goes. You should be able to do it.
I mean, for people who are accessing the file through the Google Drive that you just share, do they need to make a copy as well, right?
Yes, so everybody needs to do that same step to make a copy.
And that is done exactly what we show in within the classroom, right?
Correct.
Okay. Tienen que hacer, por favor, una copia de ese archivo, igual que hemos mostrado en el Classroom, aunque lo van a hacer ahora directamente en el Google Drive. Pero tienen que hacer una copia para que puedan trabajar.
Yeah, so you want to, am I unmuted? Yeah, so you want to come up here to File. Oh, people can see this, to the File menu, and then Save a Copy in Drive. And when you do that, it will save a copy of the file in your Google Drive, and you'll be able to edit the file, add code, and run it. Which I think you can run my shared file, but you can't edit it. You can't make any changes to it. And we want people to be able to make changes.
Do they need to download the data file first to run these things, or is everything embedded?
I'm sorry, say that again, Marcos?
What I'm asking is if they need to download the data file associated with this code and these things that you're showing.
No. All they need is this Colab file.
Okay. Everything is there. Okay, thanks.
Everything is all. So am I still sharing my screen, or did it? Yes, it is still. Okay.
Yeah.
Just let me know.
Ana Maria was able
let
to
us
do
know
it
when they're ready. I don't know how long we can wait. I don't want to leave anybody behind, so.
Is anybody perdón, están teniendo, ¿alguien tiene algún problema que quieran compartir? ¿Se les puede tratar de ayudar ahora? O por lo menos denos una señal de que sí está todo bien, como hizo Ana, por favor, Ana María.
En mi caso está funcionando.
Súper, gracias. Todo bien, súper. Ok. Si alguien tiene algún problema, por favor, comente. Amy, in the Andean region, not in Peru, not in the lowlands in Bolivia, but in the Andean region, I know we are a little bit shy.
Okay. Well, I hope people will feel comfortable asking questions and comments and stopping me. Please don't be shy.
Okay, it seems like it's working.
Seems like everybody's ready to go.
Yes,
Okay.
I think.
Okay. Fantastic. So this is what's called a Jupyter Notebook file, and we're running it in a wonderful application from Google called Collaboratory. So I'll explain that as we go along. So first, I just want to point out there's some information at the top here that just explains the content of the file. And then, so I want to scroll down to where it says section 0, setting up Google Collaboratory. So just a few words about this application. So as I mentioned, it's what's called a Jupyter Notebook service. Has anybody used Jupyter Notebooks before? Is anybody familiar with the Jupyter Notebook format?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay. So there's a few people, it looks like. Okay, great. So as I'm going along, if anybody has any questions, the people that know about Jupyter Notebook, feel free to answer questions in the chat, and we can help each other out. So Jupyter Notebook is what it is it allows the Python code to be broken into separate blocks. And as we move forward, you'll see how that works. So instead of being one long file where we have one line after the next, we can break the code into blocks and get results for each of those blocks. So it's really nice for training and for learning. So that's why we're using Jupyter Notebook today. And Google Colab, it's a free service that allows us to run the Jupyter Notebook essentially in the cloud. So you don't have to have Python set up on your computer. You can just use this Google Collaboratory application. So the only drawback, though, is that the Colab session is temporary. So a session meaning this file, everything that we do in the file, it will expire after 12 hours of continuous use or 90 minutes of idle time. So what that means is that anything that you run, any files you download, or any output that you generate, it will be lost after the session expires. So anything that you want to save, you need to make sure that you download those to your Google Drive or to your local computer. Okay. So for example, if you wanted to download a file, you couldn't leave it on the Google Collaboratory because after 12 hours, everything gets erased and reset. So you would lose those data. Okay. Could you explain that in Spanish, Marcos? I just want to make sure people understand that.
Yes, sure.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe the most important part to explain is that everything will be lost after it's closed, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. I just want people to know that, and they have to, anything that they want to save, they have to download it to their Google Drive or their computer.
Ok, eso es importante, por eso lo vamos a repetir en español. Es que esta, si bien es una herramienta muy genial, como mencionaba Amy, la versión que estamos usando, que es gratis, hace que cuando se cierra todo lo que se ha hecho se borre, por lo cual, si quieren mantener lo que han hecho, tienen que bajar todo lo que han hecho al Drive para que mantengan el registro y las cosas y todo lo que han hecho, ¿no? Entonces, como algo que se borra cuando se apaga el computador. Entonces, por favor, tengan eso en mente para que no pierdan información que les parece importante. Leonel is asking if the code that are being used in Colab could be run in Conda, sorry.
Yes. So that's this last section here of this first part is that all the code here will run in any Python IDE. So Spider, Visual Studio Code, an actual Jupyter Notebook application, or the Python interpreter. There is some code that's specifically for the Google Colab instance, but that will be clearly identified so you can tell, okay? So yes, so all the code is Python code, and it will work anywhere Python works. So you can copy it and paste it and make your own scripts or make your own Jupyter notebooks. And I hope that people will do that. That's the goal. Okay, that's a great question. All right, are we ready to move forward? Okay, so I'm going to scroll down to this next section. So Jupyter Notebook, the nice thing, as I said, is that the code is broken into these blocks. And the blocks are these gray cells here. So anywhere you see the gray cell, that's the actual Python code. And then I also have these blocks that are called text blocks. And so this is where I have information. I have links to documentation for the different packages that we're going to use. So anytime you see a link, you can actually click on it. So just for example, I'll click on this, and then this tab will open and you can click on the link and it'll take you to that web page. So for example, this is the documentation for the date time module. So I just put all that information here in the file so that you'll have that as a reference. Okay. All right. So I'm going to scroll down. So the first thing we have to do, and again, this is just for the Google Colab. We have to install two packages, S3FS and NetCDF4, that aren't part of the Google Colab. Okay. So we're going to run this block. So to run a block, if you click on the block, you'll see this black circle with a little white arrow. And if you click on that arrow, it'll run the block. Okay, so make sure you run them one at a time. Don't get ahead of me, please. Okay, so hopefully everybody's doing that. And so as that's running, you'll start to see some information here come out. And eventually we're going to see some error messages. So is everybody hopefully running the block? All right, if you're having trouble, put it in the chat. Okay. So when the block is finished running, there'll be a little green check mark next to the black circle with the arrow, and there'll be a time underneath it. So in this case, it's 30 seconds. So that's the time that it took to run that block of code. So on my computer, it just took 30 seconds to run this, to install these packages. Okay. So if you see all these error messages, don't worry, that's fine. It's not going to impact our tutorial. The reason why is because some of these packages, Torch and GCFS, that had to be installed, they conflict with some other packages that are already installed. But again, we don't have to worry about that. It's not going to bother us. Okay. All right. Are there any questions in the chat related to? I can't tell. Something about Firefox.
Amy, when I tried to run in the copy, of course, on my copy, I got a module not found error.
Not found error.
And
for which part?
Let me see.
Do you want to share your screen?
Can I? Yes, I can.
Okay, hold on. Let me stop sharing.
Oops. Let me share. Oops. Okay. Here.
Oh, it's small. It's hard for me to see. So if you scroll up, did you install the packages?
Oh, I did not.
Marcos?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So again, you have
I
to
need
go
to run
in order.
this one first, right?
You have to. Yeah, you have for this. It's absolutely essential that you go in order. You cannot go out of order. So yeah. So the first thing we have to do is install those two packages, and then we can import. Okay. Does everybody understand that? Please don't go out of order, because otherwise you'll get you have a problem like that. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good that happened, Marco. So that way, you know, other people probably made the same mistake.
Now I will.
Now, if you import, everything should be fine. Yep.
It is.
Yep. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So again, so the reason
thank
you know everything, there's no error messages, and you have that little green check mark next to the top of the block on the left, and it has a little.
This one.
Yep, a little one, and
Okay.
it'll have some sort of time underneath it. That's how long it took to run the block. Okay.
I see.
Perfect.
Great. I will stop sharing. Okay.
Okay. No, I'm glad you pointed that out. Okay, so let me go back. Okay. So hopefully everybody did the first step to install these packages. And then the next block, which Marcos just demonstrated for us, is now the very first thing when you're using Python is you need to import the modules and packages. So let's run this block. And again, it should be really, so mine only took 1 second. So it should be really fast, and you shouldn't see any output. So you shouldn't see anything, because basically all we were doing is we're just importing these different modules and packages that we're going to use. Okay. So everybody still doing okay? I don't see anything in the chat. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
There is one.
Yes.
One question here that Rodrigo did and I didn't see before. He says he's using Firefox as a tool, but it doesn't allow me to see the code. It says I don't understand exactly what is happening.
I think you have to use Chrome because Colab is a Google product. I don't think you can use Firefox.
Okay. Rodrigo, mejor usar Chrome.
I haven't tested it with any other browsers, but I think you probably have to use Chrome. Excuse me.
No, especially even with the Classroom, I prefer to use it in Chrome, although it works with Firefox, but you never know that it's going to work as it's intended.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. So let's keep going. Okay. So I'm scrolling down. So again, the way I've done it is for each section where there's Python code, I just have text above it that explains what I'm doing. Okay, so that's just for people's reference. All right, so the next block that we're going to run is this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to make new directories on the Google Colab instance. So if you come, before we run this, if you come, hopefully you guys see this horizontal menu on the far left. If you click on the little icon that looks like a file, so it'll open up this files window tab here. We can actually make this, and you can adjust this. You can make it a little bit smaller. So this is the file directory on Google Colab. Okay, so it comes with this sample data directory, so you can just ignore that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make 2 new directories. So this is the code here. So if we run this, and then this is the refresh, this little arrow. If you click that, if you don't see the 2 new files or folders, mine just popped up, you can hit this refresh and you should be able to see them. Okay, so we made 2 folders or directories, one for the ABI files that we're going to download and one for the VIIRS files. Okay. And then in the next block, what I like to do is I just like to name the directories just for convenience. So instead of writing like content /VIIRS files each time, I can just write VIIRS path or ABI path. So if we run that, okay, so we won't get any output for that. Okay. All right, is everybody good? Oh, Anna says that the Google Colab is working in Firefox. Okay, that's good to know, Anna. Okay, thank you. Yeah, like I said, I've never tried it in anything other than Chrome. But I guess Anna's finding it works in Firefox. Okay. Okay. All right, everybody's good?
Yes, I got.
Oh, somebody have a question?
No, it's okay.
Okay, great. All right, so then we're going to go to the next. So now we're actually going to start working with the data archives. Okay, so again, I have some information up here that's just there for your reference. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to connect to the Amazon Web Service. So they call their directories S3 buckets. S3 stands for Simple Storage Service. Okay, and so the buckets, again, they're like directories on the cloud. So we're going to use this package, Python package called S3FS. That's going to allow us to connect to the Amazon Web Services and navigate it as if it were file directories. Okay, that's what the FS stands for, file system. And so, and again, I've listed there's 4 different functions from the S3F package that we're going to use. So again, I have the links here to the documentation if you're interested. Okay. So the first step is to this block here is to connect to Amazon Web Services anonymously. And we're using an anonymous connection because all of the NOAA data are publicly available. Okay, so let's run that. And again, that should be really fast. You shouldn't have any output from that. Okay, so now we're connected to Amazon Web Services. All right.
Amy?
Okay. Yes, question.
Yes, these are the packages. These 4 packages are the ones that you are choosing with this command, right? And what, in general, if there are more packages that you want to use, how do you choose this? How did you choose these packages?
Sorry, say that one more time, Marcos.
Yeah, what I'm saying is there are these functions. There are four functions here that you use.
Yes.
How did you choose only these 4? And if we want to use more, how can we add them to the command, or is this general and it takes the whole library?
It takes a whole library. So at the top, yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so let me just go back to the top here. Hopefully I won't make anybody dizzy. Whoops, sorry, I went too far. So we imported, where is it? We imported S3FS. We imported the whole package. So you have all of the commands at your disposal. So if you wanted to explore some of the other commands, this is the link to the S3FS documentation.
I see.
So here's all the documentation, and it'll have all the information about all of the different functions. Okay, so you can absolutely go and look at, see what all the different other options are. So what I'm doing, so I'm going to scroll back down to where we were.
Thank you.
What I'm doing is I'm just saying for this particular tutorial, these are the 4 functions that we're going to be using in this tutorial. Okay, because we're going to download files. We're going to list the available files. We're going to open a file. We might not have time to do that today, but next week we'll open a file, and then we're going to see what the approximate size of the files are before we download them. Okay, does that make sense? Marcos?
It makes sense to me. I was just waiting for people to say something.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure. Okay. Well, I guess let's keep going, and hopefully it'll make sense to everybody. Okay. All right. So remember I mentioned that there's 2 different archives. There's one for the JPSS, VIIRS, the polar orbiting data, and then there's one for the GOES, our geostationary ABI data. So first, we're going to start with the JPSS, the VIIRS data. So you can actually, so we're going to access the data using Python. There is a web interface. So if you wanted to search for the data using the web interface, you can do that as well. Okay, and the links are here. So there's 3 separate Amazon S3 buckets for the data, and one for each of the 3 satellites. So there's one for SNPP, there's one for NOAA 20 data, there's one for NOAA 21 data. Okay, and then these are, so we're going to need these for Python. These are the names in the gray. Those are the names of the buckets. Okay, so you'll see how that works in a second. All right. And then I put this in the slides, but again, this is just the availability of the AOD and the VIIRS files on the node. Okay, so again, they're updated in near real time, but the archive only goes back to either October or August of 2022, or for NOAA 21, that's the latest, the most recent of the JPSS satellites, it just goes back to September of 2023. Okay. All right.
Amy,
Yes.
just a curiosity, and I think you described that when you were describing your slides. Why is it called these buckets?
Oh, the S3 buckets? That's
Uh-huh.
just Amazon's terminology, Marco.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, and again, S3 stands for Simple Storage Service.
I see. I see.
So yeah, so if you use Amazon Web Services and the S3 buckets, they're like file directories. That's how I think about them. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure where the buckets term comes from, but that's what they call it.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. Okay. So so I picked NOAA 20 to use today, but again, you could pick, if you were interested in NOAA 21 or SNPP data, all the code that we're gonna work through today, we can do the same thing for the other satellites. Okay, so essentially what we need to do first is let's just, we've connected, let's just see what all the different products are in the NOAA 20 bucket. This is the link to it right here. And so there's a bunch of them. And so then we're just gonna print what they are. Okay, so if we run this, we're gonna get a whole list. Let's see if I can show it here. So these are all of the highest level products that are available from the NOAA 20 bucket. So you can see these are all different products. All right, and there's 5 different sensors. So this ATMS or CRIS or OMPS, those are the different sensors on the NOAA 20 satellite. Oops, I can't do that. So we're interested in VIIRS. So I can tell you right now, so the one we're going to want is this one right here. That product, that's the VIIRS files. And then if we scroll down a little bit more, here's the AOD product, the VIIRS JRR AOD. And again, JRR stands for JPSS risk reduction. It's just a term. It doesn't really mean anything. Okay. Okay. So, I mentioned, so this was just a Python thing. So what we're doing is here, we're getting the directory paths for these different products on the S3 bucket, but I don't need the whole path name. I just like to see, what the actual product is, and that's the end of the path name. So that's all we printed out here. But again, if you wanted to see like what the full path name is, this is just an example for the first product. So again, essentially all I did is I just cut off that beginning because it's the same for all of them. I know already that I'm in the NOAA 20 bucket. What I'm really interested in is just the last part of the directory path. Okay. So I just do that for convenience. Okay. So now we've seen the top level, we've seen all the different products. So now what we want to do is we actually want to get down to, a data file. And so the way we do that is we look at how the bucket is organized, okay? So again, think of these as folders or directories on your computer. So the top level is the product. We just saw all the different products. And then for each product, the data are organized by year, month, day, and then the specific file name. Remember from the slides earlier, we saw examples of the file names, okay? So if the way that we navigate to a specific data file that we want is we set the full directory path, okay? And so we're gonna have something that looks like this when we're done. So we're gonna have the actual bucket for the satellite. So this example, it's NOAA 20. Then we're gonna have the product name. In this example, it's the VIIRS product. Then we're gonna have the year, 2023. This is just an example, 2023. And then we're gonna have the month. In this case, it's April 04. We're gonna have the day. In this case, it's the 4th. And then we're gonna have the full file name, which ends in .nc. Okay. So what we're gonna do next is all we're gonna do is basically we're gonna construct this full data path to get to the data files on the Amazon Web Services NOD archive that we want to download. Okay. All right. So let me just check the chat. Someone asked, how much data does AWS allow me to work with Colab? So AWS doesn't care, but if you look down at the lower, I don't know, guys, if you can see this on my computer or on the screen, but if you look at the lower left side of your Colab screen, you'll see where it says disk, and it shows you how much space you have on the Colab instance. So you only have about 100 or so gigabytes, and some of that is already taken. So you can download about 80 gigabytes of data or so before Google, the Colab will fill up, okay, which is pretty good. All right, Rodrigo says, my code is blocked. Will it later be unblocked? Rodrigo, did you make a copy of the file? So remember, you need to, when you open it up, you need to come up to where it says File, and then save a copy in Drive. Okay, and then you want to work with the saved copy in your Google Drive. Okay, you don't want to work with the file I shared with you directly, because that will be blocked. You won't be able to edit that at all. Okay, did that make sense, Rodrigo? Hopefully. Okay, good. Okay. Any other questions? Those are good questions. Did I get all of them? Okay. All right, so right. So we figured out how we're going to actually get to the file that we want. So the first step is, so I should back up. So I picked the case study for our tutorial of the date of November 6, 2023, because there was a lot of smoke over the Bolivia region from fires in the region. So I thought that would be a good day. So what we want to do first is we're going to look for all the fires, the VIIRS level 2 fires files. And we're going to look for them. We're going to get them all for November 6, 2023 first. Okay. So the way we do that is what we're going to do is we're going to construct that path that I was just showing you. Okay. So we're going to put together the satellite S3 bucket, the product name, the year, the month, and the day. And that will take us to all the files for November 6, 2023. Okay, so all we're doing is we're just defining. So we know we want the NOAA 20 bucket. We know we want, this is the product name that we want. So AF stands for active fires. That's just the name of the fires product. Okay, and then we know we want 2023, November is 11, and November 6th. Okay, so if we run this, let's do that. Oh, and I should mention, so this FSLS command, that's going to give us all the listing of all the files in that location. So all the files for November 6th, 2023. But there's over 1,000 of them, so we don't want to print them all. So I'm just printing the first 10. Okay, so that's what this code is doing here. Okay. All right, someone else has a question. How can we access the ABI files sample data if we were using another platform? So we made the ABI files directory. The sample data, that just comes automatically with the Google Colab. Okay, so I'm not even sure what's in there in the sample data. That's not something that we did today. That's just something that's always there in the Google Colab. So we'll see at the end. So if you, like, for example, the VIIRS files or the ABI files that we're going to download in a second, you need to, if you want to access them from another platform, you actually have to download them to your Google Drive or to your local computer. And I'll show you how to do that. Okay. Because we're in the cloud right now. Okay, so did everybody get this? So was everybody able to see the total number of files in this bucket is over 1,000, and then just printing out the first 10. And again, you can see what the file name looks like. Okay.
Amy?
Yeah, Marcos. Question.
Sorry, if you want to, you said that there were like at least many files. If you want to select the files by hour, then you have to add something, I guess, in the command in the data path.
We're gonna get there in a second, Marcos.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
No, that's a perfect question. That's gonna be next. Yep. Okay. And again, so I just want to point out, so using this split here, I just want to, personally, I just want to see the file names. I don't want the full directory path. But again, what we're actually getting with the fsls command is we are getting the full directory path. I'm just not printing it out. So for example, if you wanted to see the full directory path for the first file, again, this is what it looks like. So this part up till here is what that I've highlighted in blue. This is what we've constructed right here, okay, with Python. Okay. All right. So is everybody good? Because I'm going to answer Marcos's question right now, and it's kind of, I think, related to some of the questions that people asked earlier as well. Okay. All right. So I'm at the part that says function to find the start end times for a JPSS satellite overpass of a geographic domain. All right, you guys keep what you're doing. I'm just going to pull up a website to help explain this. If I can find it here. I opened it before. Okay, here we go. All right, give it a second here to load. Okay, so this is, Anna showed this earlier. This is the JSTAR Mapper website. And so I've moved it to display the data for November 6, 2023. Again, this is our case study day. And so you can see, again, this is the global NOAA 20 VIIRS data, okay? So if you remember from the slides, all right, the NOAA 20 satellite, it's measuring the data, or excuse me, it's observing the Earth in these swaths, and the data files, so I'm going to zoom in now to South America. The data files are distributed as these individual, what are called granules. As I move over them, hopefully you can see them. They kind of look like rectangles, okay? So if I hover over one of them, hopefully you can see in the top right corner, it'll show the start date and time and end date and time for the granule. Okay, each one is about 85 seconds. So we saw in that S3 bucket that there's 1,000 of these individual granules files. Okay, so there's about 500 for the daytime and 500 for the nighttime. But what we want to do is we want to be able to find just the ones that cover the region that we want. So in other words, the region kind of over central western South America, where Bolivia and Peru and Chile are, okay? So how do we do that? How do we basically, if I'm hovering, we just kind of want these granules here and these ones here. So how do we find them? I'm going to go back to the Python now. So how do we find them from among all those thousands of files, like 1,000 files, I should say? So what we want to do is, sorry, I should back up. So there's no way to select based on a geographic area in the Amazon Web Services S3 bucket. There's no interface that will allow us to do that. So what I did is I wrote a function here that what it does is it lets you, if you enter the satellite that you want, so in this case it's NOAA 20, and the date that you want, in this case it's November 6, 2023, and then the corners of the latitude, longitude corners of the domain that you want, it will tell you the times when the satellite enters that region and exits. And so once we have those times, we can use the times to subset the file names. So let me show you how that works, okay? So here, this is the function that I wrote. And so it's kind of long. If people have questions about it, I can ask, or you can ask me and I'll explain it. But basically what it does is it links to a University of Wisconsin tool that has the overpass times, okay? So let's run that. We're not gonna get any output from it because it's just a function. So the idea is if we scroll down here, so I'm now at the block that says find the NOAA 20 overpass start end times for Central Western South America on November 6th. So what we have to do is we have to define the satellite name. So in this case, we want NOAA 20, the observation date, okay, in this format, year, 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 month, month, day, day. Okay, so it's 2023, 1106. And then the corners of our domain. So the lower left latitude and longitude, okay, of the domain, and then the upper right latitude and longitude, okay? So these latitude, longitude corners, you know, cover Central, Western South America. So Bolivia, part of Peru, a little bit of Brazil, okay? So then once we call the function that we just defined, it's going to give us, again, the time when the satellite enters that region and exits. So let's run that, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, so now, so what this means is that the NOAA 20 satellite, it enters that region at 1657 UTC and exits at 17, I should highlight, 1657 UTC and exits at 1704 UTC. And then it comes back again and it enters at 1838 UTC and exits at 1845 UTC. Okay, so again, if you remember my JSTAR mapper, so again, we're looking for the time when the satellite is moving over this region, right? And so that's what we just got, that information. Okay, does that make sense? I hope. All right, so now we can go back. So I'm just going to scroll up again. So remember the file names. Let me just get to a file name. So remember the VIIRS file names. So remember, this is the starting date and time of the observation. So now we know, so it's, again, it's the year 2023, the month 11, the day 06. And then it's, in this file, it's 0001 UTC. Okay, so what we need to do now is we essentially need to find the file names that correspond to these times. So the ones that encompass the period of 1657 to 1704 UTC, and then 1838 to 1845 UTC. Okay, so that's how we're going to subset that. So that's what we're going to do next.
Amy,
okay?
sorry, before
Question.
you move on, just a curiosity, the four numbers that you have there, it belongs to the two adjacent swaps, right?
Yes. Yeah. So again, it depends. Sometimes you won't have, you know, there won't be any overlap. Sometimes the satellite, it'll just go directly over the region of interest. But in this particular day, as you can see, right, basically this overpass kind of got part of the region, and then it came back again and it got the rest of the region. Exactly. So we want to make sure we get all the files that correspond to both overpasses. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, no, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. Okay. All right, so that's what we're going to do next. So so now I'm in the section that says select the NOAA 20 VIIRS active FIRES files for Central Western South America on November 6, 2023. Okay, and we're going to print the file names and then the approximate file sizes. I like to see the size of files before I download them, okay, just to make sure they're not too huge. And so what this code is doing here is essentially it's saying, it's going through all of the files, the 1012, I think it was files in the bucket for November 6th. And it's just pulling out the ones that correspond to those two overpass times that we found. Okay, and then it's going to print them out. It's going to print out the file names, and it's going to print out the file size using FS size. Okay, so let's run that. There's going to be 10 files. There they are. See how fast that was? At least it was on my computer. It was really fast. So these are the 10 files that correspond to those two overpasses. So again, if you look at the file name, again, so if you look at the time, the observation time, you can see this file starts at 1658 and then ends, so that's the first overpass, and then goes through 1703. And then with the next overpass, we're getting the file from 1839 to 1844. Okay. Isn't that cool? I mean, I don't know. I was really excited about this. It just makes finding the VIIRS files much, much easier. Okay. Does that make sense, Marcos?
It makes
you
sense.
See how that works?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay, so now that we have our files, we've identified them. We know, I didn't talk about the file sizes. They're actually pretty small. The VIIRS files are always pretty small. Aerosol optical depth files are quite large, as we'll see in a second, relatively speaking. So these are nice small files. So let's download them. Okay, so we're going to use the fsget command. And so for each of the files that we found, we're going to download them to that VIIRS files directory that we made. Okay, remember I just named it the VIIRS path just for convenience. Okay, so let's run this. It'll take a second, not too long. So then if we come over here to the VIIRS files, we should see all of our files downloaded. Let's see if I can. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, there they all are. Okay, is everybody able to do that?
I have a problem. I don't know, maybe I didn't run some part of the code before.
What was the problem, Marcos?
It says what is this? Name error. Should I share my screen so you can see
Oh,
it?
sure. Yeah, let's do that. Let me stop sharing.
Oh, wait, how is that? Sure. Okay, see it is in the middle of screen. I don't know if you can read it. It's name error. It doesn't say. Can you see it? Amy? Oops. Hello? Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I'm sorry. I was just talking and no one could hear me. Yeah, so you missed a block. You didn't run a block by mistake. So if you scroll up to the close to the top, so you must have inadvertently skipped the one where we named the paths for convenience. Yeah, keep going all the way close to the top.
Okay,
right
okay.
after where we made the new directories.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So keep going, way up at the top. Keep going.
This one?
Okay, right there. Yep, that one.
Yeah, it's not marked with a check mark,
So
right?
you
Okay.
it's easy to skip them. Yeah, you skip that one. Okay, so now if you go back down, Marcos, and you run that again, you shouldn't have a problem.
Yeah, here.
The download.
Oops.
Yep, run it again.
Oops.
It should be fine. Yep. And so now, if you go to the left there, where it says,
Yes.
yeah, VIIRS files, yeah, just click on that, like the little arrow. There they are. Yep, they're there.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
It is. It's great.
Isn't that cool?
And the tool that you wrote, it's beautiful. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, I don't know. I just get excited because the old system of trying to download the data was difficult, and so this it's this new CLART archive. It's really easy to access and download the files quickly. So
there is a question on the chat.
Oh, there is? Okay.
A person is asking if she can finish looking at the tutorial when there is this tutorial is in the classroom. In fact, it is in the classroom, right?
I'm sorry, I missed.
No, she's asking if she can. She has to leave the class right now, so okay. she was wondering if she can continue looking at the tutorial later in the classroom.
Of course. Yeah, so she should have her copy now on Google Drive. Everyone should have their own copy so they can look at it. And I hope people will look at it, on their own. Absolutely.
Y Ana dice, vamos a poner los videos más tarde también, más tarde o después para que todos puedan verlo. Pero la idea es que estén en clases, no que se confíen que van a grabar, tienen que estar en clases solo cuando hay alguna cosa especial. Por un ratito pueden abandonar, si quieren su certificado, ese es el trato con ustedes. Okay.
Sí, Sí, buenas noches, saludos a todos. Es importante que estén en las clases porque así también pueden absolver sus dudas acerca de toda la capacitación y también no es lo mismo ver el video que hacerlo e intentar y si existe algún error preguntar, ¿no? Y también se está haciendo una lista de los que ingresan.
Tengo una pregunta para Ana Prado, por favor.
Adelante.
Sí.
Antes hemos mencionado que el satélite VIIRS es orbital, solamente mide una vez al día, pero estamos haciendo ejercicio para 6 de noviembre de 2023 y aparece 10 archivos. Eso no lo entiendo por qué aparece 10 archivos. Porque debería haber solamente un archivo por día.
Para VIIRS. So, Amy, the question is that they're looking at VIIRS data and they see 10 data files when they were expecting only one, since there's only one. You know, those are
No, they should have 10 data files.
okay.
So see, these are the data files. See these 10 data files? These are the ones that correspond. Wait, let me go back to the JSTAR mapper. That correspond to this region here. So each of these, they look kind of like rectangles. That's a data file. So it's these 10 files that correspond to this region.
Yeah, so, entonces son los, voy a repetir en español, cada uno de los files corresponde a estos rectángulos que vemos aquí, que nos está mostrando Amy.
Y que de hecho entonces tienes solo una pasada por cada lugar específico para esa hora. Porque no se repite.
Ahora sí tiene sentido.
Sí.
Perfecto.
Okay.
Ajá. ¿Y cómo puedo saber qué rectángulo corresponde a Pucallpa, Perú, por ejemplo? ¿Cómo puedo saber eso?
Oh, okay. Amy,
Yes.
he's asking how can he be sure that one of these granules correspond to the specific location that he's interested in?
Okay, hold on. So that was back here, okay? So remember, this is the function right here. This is the one that I wrote that's going to return the overpass times, the start and end times for whatever region you want, okay? So what you have to do right here in this block, okay, this is where you set that information. So if you wanted, so I used a region here that corresponds to, a fairly large area. It's all of Bolivia, southern Peru, part of Brazil. If you wanted a smaller region or a region that was just over Peru, for example, you would change these coordinates. Okay, right here, this is where you're setting the corners of the geographic domain for which you're going to be subsetting the VIIRS files. I don't know, Marcus, you might want to say that in Spanish to make sure it's clear.
Yes, clear for me. Thank you.
Oh, okay, you're welcome. So again, the only thing though is don't make it too small, okay? You want to make it a little bit bigger than your domain because you want to make sure you get all of the files, okay? So make it a little bit bigger. I think I say that right here. Yeah, make it bigger. And that way you'll make sure you get all the files.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Amy, and
yes.
Sorry. And
No,
then later people could maybe they want to try to compare or to obtain data for a specific point. Does this make sense? I mean, from the data from these granules that you have for this specific region, can you get the one specific point in the latitude and longitude?
Inside the files you could, Marcos.
What I'm saying is, can you really pick the location, the exact location, and then try to get the information from each of these files? For example, these 10 files that we have there. But
well, again, so all we're doing now is we're just trying to find the files that cover a specific region. So they're covering the whole region.
Yes. It's for a question probably later. If I would like to have, for example, Santa Cruz in Bolivia and then I can do it, right? I can pick the information from that specific
Yeah, so
location.
in that case, I would say get the 3 or 4 files that cover Bolivia, and then find the one that well, I guess you wouldn't have to. Again, you don't want it with this. You don't want to go too small because then you won't get any granules back. But just make sure you get the granules that cover your region, and then inside the files is where you'll find the data that to correspond to that specific latitude, longitude.
All right, thank you.
I don't know, is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
And Javier Terrazas is suggesting SEL command. He says like select command or something like that.
That's for X-ray, so that won't work here. That's a different package. Yeah, Javier, there's no SEL command for, again, we're using the S3FS package. So I think you're thinking of X-ray.
Super.
I'm sorry, may I ask a question, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, since we're looking at this data and what we have downloaded, I have missed the part where you upload this data into the GIF mapper that is from the NOAA. Can you show us again how it's made this precision? But how do you make this statement in order to see our data in a visualizer?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Could you maybe ask in Spanish?
Okay. I'll try to do it again.
Okay.
I have missed the part where you upload this data into this mapper that you have from the GStar mapper.
Oh, so, yeah, no, I think that's my fault, Gabriel. I wasn't being clear. This is just an example. So this is a NOAA webpage, this JSTAR mapper, and it happens to show the data. In this case, the fires, that's the little yellow and red dots. And then it shows the granules. So I was trying to just use this as a visual to show you what we're downloading from the Amazon Web Services.
Okay, so
this is a completely separate thing. So essentially, we're getting the files we're downloading the files that correspond to these granules.
Okay, so just an example, it's not the data that we have been working with.
Well, it is. This is just showing it on a website. But yes, we're downloading the actual data files.
And is that a procedure that we can see this data that we had downloaded and see it in a visualizer?
We're going to do that in week 3, Gabriel.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. We're going to open the files in week 3, and we're going to plot them on a map. So it will look very similar to this, except it's just going to be basically for this region here. Again, the region we're focusing on, but it will look very similar to this.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, it's a good question. Did somebody else have a question?
There a couple of people have asked if there's a participant list.
Oh, that's in the classroom, isn't it?
Yeah, the people who are registering the class, they are in the classroom, or they should be in the classroom. Please, if you are, this is a good point. If you have been accepted and you are registering the class, please be sure that you are part of the classroom platform. If you are not there, please let us know. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay. Does anybody have more questions? It looks like Marco says, I missed the JSTAR mapper thing. So Marco, when I just re-explain that to Gabrielle, did it make sense? Did I answer your question? All I was trying to show is that, so these are the 10 VIIRS files that we selected and downloaded. I was just trying to show visually, if I bring the granules back, visually that they correspond. These are the actual locations of the files that we identified and downloaded. That's all I was just trying to show with JSTAR Mapper. It was just a visual aid to try to help people understand the need to subset the data and select them for a specific geographic region. So I hope it didn't cause more confusion. Okay, so we're only about halfway through, and it's already 7 o'clock. So I think we should continue this next week. Marcos and Anna, what do you think? One thing that people could do, so there's this first exercise, exercise 1. So essentially what I want you to do is exactly what we just did, except we did it for the VIIRS data. I want you to do it for the AOD data. Okay, so maybe people on their own can, and there's instructions here. And I have the blank cells so that you can fill in the code. And if you get stuck, I have the answers here, but definitely try to do it on your own, okay? And then, and next time we'll look at the GOES-R buckets and download the ABI data.